Hello, and welcome to Reimagining Love. I'm Dr. Alexandra Solomon. I have been studying relationships for over 20 years as a couples therapist, a professor, an award-winning author, and as a wife, mother, daughter, sister, and friend. Now, I'm inviting you into this space each week as I dig into some of the toughest and most fascinating relational dilemmas of our time. If you want to discover how to create vibrant and loving relationships in your own life, you have come to the right place. This is Reimagining Love. Hey there. Welcome to a solo episode. Okay, so over our 4+ years together on Reimagining Love, we've done lots of solo episodes where I take a seemingly simple and straightforward statement that the people are making about relationships, and then we just go hella deep on it. You know, I talk you through, we explore the layers and the nuances, and we put this like thick, juicy relational framing around a phrase that I think has gotten too simplistic for its own good, like too simplistic to be meaningful or impactful. So today, that's where we're going. We're going to look at this idea of what it means when people say they've outgrown their relationship. Something that we hear and we nod, but as we're nodding along, I think we're missing an opportunity to slow down and pause and look at, like, what are we saying? There's a lot to discuss and explore here. So straight up top, the goal of this episode is not to give you a flow chart of like, if this is happening in your relationship, then end it. If this is happening in your relationship, then keep it going, right? I would not ever act like relational decision-making could be mapped neatly onto a flow chart, though it would be lovely if it could be. The goal also is not to talk you out of whatever you're feeling as you put me in your ears and listen to this episode. So it's not about me talking you out of your perceptions, your feelings, your beliefs, your desires in any way, shape, or form. In fact, if you've already decided to end the intimate relationship that you're in or the friendship that you're in, I hope that this episode offers you nothing more than some time to reflect and integrate. And I hope that it leaves you feeling validated and comforted in that decision. If you are finding yourself sitting on the fence these days in what I call relational ambivalence, you're not sure what your next move is, you're afraid you've outgrown the relationship, but you just don't feel like you are clear on that. My hope is that this episode offers you some pathways first and foremost into yourself, deepening your understanding of you, and that perhaps it opens up some new avenues for conversation with your partner. Okay, so if those aren't the goals, what is the goal? Well, the goal is just that, to offer you clarity, to offer you some ideas about how you might work relationally with the person with whom you're feeling like, oh, have I outgrown you? Have I outgrown us? Have I outgrown this? By the way, I'm going to be talking throughout the episode in the language of intimate relationships, but I think a lot of what we're going to talk about here can be brought to your friendships as well. And that's something that we hear a lot too, don't we? This idea or this fear that we've outgrown our friendships. Okay, so our plan is I'm going to operationalize, you know me, I like to put some boots on the ground, figure out what these terms mean that we're using. So I'm going to talk you through what I think people are saying when they say they've outgrown their relationship. Then we're going to go deep into your interior. We're going to look at the internal stuff, what might be going on inside of you that's shaping this feeling that you've outgrown the relationship that you're in. Then we'll look at the relational stuff, what might be going on in the space between you and your partner that's shaping this feeling that you've outgrown the relationship. And then finally, we'll talk about some strategies that you can use to bring clarity to the situation. Okay, let's operationalize. What is it that people mean when they say they think they've outgrown a relationship? I have researched and thought about this, talked with my team. I had this, amazing, brilliant team of grad students and team members, and we did a big brainstorm about it. And as I've researched and prepped for this episode, I've kind of broken down this idea of outgrowing your relationship into two buckets that are not wholly separate, but separate enough, I think, to make a distinction meaningful here. Bucket one is, I think I've outgrown the relationship because I feel disengaged. I feel far away from you and I don't know how to connect with you, and things feel sort of stale, flat, boring. Bucket number two is, I think I've outgrown this relationship because I have evolved so much and in such a way that I don't think I fit here anymore, or belong here anymore, or can be here anymore. So in that first bucket, the I feel disengaged, it's sort of like the phenomenological experience, like what this looks and feels like is maybe like conversations feel flat, conversations feel stilted. Perhaps you notice that you aren't bringing your innermost thoughts to your partner anymore, or the feelings that you're having, or observations, like it feels like it all falls flat anyways. So what's the point? This other one, I have evolved, this other bucket of I have evolved, that looks more like I've changed or we've changed. Like we've got some divergent goals, some divergent dreams or visions for our lives. A lot of times this is secondary to having done therapy or gone on this journey of self-discovery, however that looks. So what's changed is I now see myself and maybe you and our relationship, and in fact, the whole freaking world in this more thoughtful, nuanced way than I did before. And in parentheses, in a more nuanced, thoughtful way than I think that you do. And then the last way that this, like, I have evolved plays out is in a little bit more of a concrete way, which is like, I was X when you and I got together, and now I am Y. Like the X and the Y are usually things that are tied to kind of interest or purpose or health status. Like I was a meat eater and now I'm vegan. I wasn't really into fitness and now I'm a total yogi. I was not into fitness and now I'm a CrossFitter, whatever the, insert preferred athletic endeavor of choice. I used to be a big party person and now I'm sober. So it's like there's been this change in what I prioritize, how I spend my time, how I spend my energy, who my communities are, who I feel aligned with. And that brings up some pretty big questions about you and me. And I think there's overlap, right? Like bucket one, this I'm bored, and bucket two, I've evolved. I think there's overlap. It may be that I have changed in such a way that now I feel disengaged from you, kind of bored by you. And it may be that I feel excitement over here in my yoga community, in my sober journey community, and I don't feel excitement at home with you. It might be, as I've done this therapy journey, it's really clear to me that I married my unfinished business, or I partnered up with my unfinished business. And as I heal, I don't feel the same attraction to you and draw to you. So those kind of like growth and boredom, elements can overlap together. Okay, now I'm going to drop the hot take that's going to guide us through the rest of this episode. You feel a shift inside of you. But I want to invite/challenge you to consider that you may be missing the way that this shift inside of you is creating a relational feedback loop that is reinforcing the feeling that you've outgrown the relationship. Let me play it out. You are finding new communities, new interests, and you are welcoming these changes. And you are communicating your excitement and your passion and your insights to your partner. Your partner's threat detectors are pinging inside of them. Danger, danger, danger. Your partner may in fact be living in a near constant state of threat right now, because your excitement, what to you feels like excitement, to them feels like danger. What you are saying is, I'm excited about X. What your partner is hearing is, I am not excited by you. And then your partner moves into a self-protective strategy of some kind, because as you've heard me say, we are at the end of the day, nothing more than fancy mammals. And there are parts of our entire bodies, our entire nervous systems that are standing ready to code an absolute binary: safe, unsafe, safe, threatened, right? It's one or the other. And so your excitement may be landing inside of your partner as a cue of danger and threat, which leads them to a self-protective behavior, which we all do when we're threatened. It could be a fight response, which may look like minimizing your progress, minimizing the importance of the changes you're making, rolling your eyes about your story. It could be flight, pulling away from you, avoiding you. It could be freeze, shutting down, saying little to nothing back to you. When you are then bringing your excitement to your partner and being met with a survival strategy, a fight, a flight, or a freeze, what's the impact on you? You feel deflated. You feel alone in your changes, unseen in your changes. And every time that cycle happens, the result is that both of you feel just one more notch out of sync with each other, a little bit more lost from each other. And what are you both left with? A confirmation bias. In psychology, we know there's a confirmation bias. We are primed to see the data that confirms the thing that we're afraid is happening or believe is happening. You look for evidence increasingly that you don't belong here, and your partner looks for evidence that you are rejecting them or disappointed in them. Okay, does this mean that it's anybody's freaking fault? No. None of this is about blame. None of it's about shame. None of it's about anybody doing anything wrong. I'm just doing the thing that I'm here to do, which is invite us again and again to look through a relational lens. So if there's even a shred of possibility that this is happening in your relationship, here's where I want the rubber to hit the road for you. This is my question. What do you need from your partner and from this relationship in the wake of the really important changes that you are making? What do you need? Do you need your partner to grow also? Or do you need your partner to support / witness / validate / celebrate your growth? What do you need? That's a whole ass journal entry right there, isn't it? What's clear in a situation like the situations we're talking about is that the relational terms of service need to be updated. You know, whatever dotted line you and your partner signed on when you got together, we all, sign on these like sort of unconscious, not fully fleshed out, not totally clear dotted lines with each other when we get together. And relationships are alive, they're dynamic, they're fluid, they're evolving, they're changing. And so we need to create again and again and again updated relational terms of service. And certainly you going through a significant change or evolution inside of you necessitates new terms of service. You don't have to still want to participate in this relationship, but I want to just invite you to consider that there might be a path that involves updating the terms of service. You may not want to do the vulnerable work of exploring what you each need and want in light of your evolution. But when you say, I just outgrew the relationship, I do wonder if you're saying that perhaps as a way of bypassing that conversation. You might be assuming that your partner wouldn't or couldn't or won't stay engaged with you if and as you change, and you might be putting up that wall before you ask. So now let me invite us to take a deep breath. Of course, at this point in the episode, I'm like, how are you doing? How are you holding up? Are you still with me? Because we're far from done. Let's now do the next part, which is what I call the intrapsychic hypotheses, like what might be going on inside of you. What might be going on inside of you that's leading you to perhaps miss this relational layer? The fact that there's perhaps a cycle that's gotten kicked off between you and your partner that is kind of inadvertently creating and reinforcing this fear or this belief that you've outgrown the relationship. So I've got 4 possible etiologies, 4 possible underlying causes or things that might be happening inside of you that may be fueling the feeling you have. I think I've outgrown the relationship. Okay, you ready for them? Hypothesis 1 is the feeling you have that you maybe have outgrown the relationship might be a reflection of constriction. This might be you having moved into your own self-protective strategy in the face of what you have perceived as a threat. I want to talk you through an example of this. Some of you know that I'm mildly to moderately obsessed with Nobody Wants This, season 2. Well, the whole show, but we just watched season 2. And Esther and Sasha are a couple in the show. Sasha is the main character, Noah's brother, and Esther is his wife of many years. And there's a storyline in season 2 about Esther really wondering if she's outgrown this relationship. She does not feel the way that she felt in the beginning of the marriage to Sasha. And she's trying to figure out why, what's happened, what's this feeling that she's outgrown the relationship. And there's lots of hypotheses. But one possibility that I think is interesting and compelling and fits with this idea of constriction is that Esther's feelings and her fear that she's outgrowing the relationship started after Sasha has what we could call sort of an emotional affair or a playful, flirty friendship that felt threatening, that feels threatening with Joanne's sister, Morgan. So Esther experiences a threat to the viability of the relationship. She maybe feels less chosen by Sasha. She watches Sasha light up with this other woman in a way that he doesn't with her. And I wonder if she's constricted, shut down, pulled away as a very understandable response to that threat to the relationship. And now what she's left with is, I think I maybe have outgrown the relationship. That maybe the meaning making that she's doing around this feeling of, I don't feel connected to him, which of course she doesn't. She has protected herself, right? When we are in a self-protective mode, we aren't vulnerable. We aren't exposed. We are selectively sharing parts of ourselves, and that erodes the feeling of connection and energy and presence. And so that self-protective mode is like, I'm going to quit, pull back before I get fired, abandoned, like let me pull away from you before I end up losing you. So the check-in here for you, my dear listener, is can you kind of make a timeline and see when did you start to move into this feeling of, I think I've outgrown this relationship? What was happening right before that? Was there a threat to the relationship? Was there a fear that you had that you were going to lose your partner or this wasn't going to be viable any longer? And could you perhaps be in a place of self-protection upon which you have overlaid this story? The meaning making you've done is, I think I'm outgrowing my relationship. That's hypothesis 1. Hypothesis 2, I'm calling relational imposter syndrome. So this is the scenario where something has changed inside of you. Maybe you're sober, maybe you're on a fitness journey, maybe you're in therapy, you're unlearning some old roles, you're updating some new patterns. But you are maybe super understandably feeling kind of protective of this new you, this 2.0, this updated, elevated version of yourself. And I will tell you what I know as somebody who's been a therapist for decades and a married person for decades. One of the absolute hardest things about being in an intimate relationship is that your partner has a freaking front row seat to your life. Your partner sees every iteration of you, all of the shades of you, all of the updates you're making to your operating system. They're like right there for it. And I wonder if there's a part of you that feels tender as heck that your partner might judge you or mock you, or that there might be a shred of your partner that does not believe in the viability of this change that you're making. And that, fits with a part of you that gets scared that maybe you can't and, fully walk this talk that you've been talking. And maybe also to add insult to injury, maybe you have a history of having been smacked down in your family of origin, for example, when you tried to shine brightly. Or maybe there's a history of you not being believed by people who you really needed to have believe in you. Or maybe you were told you were too dramatic or too sensitive or too extra, or there you go again. And maybe you are afraid of being hurt and judged in that way ever again. It's really hard to make a change inside of a relationship. Like, you're not so sure about this shift that you're making. You're standing there on your little Bambi legs trying to find some solid ground underneath you. How can you possibly be expected to confidently show up in your relationship and ask your partner to see you and validate you and celebrate you when you may be having a hard time doing that for yourself? Okay, hand on your heart, self-compassion. If that's landing at all for you, it does not mean that anybody is doing anything wrong. It means that making changes and asking people to get to know you again is really freaking hard. And so there might be ways that there's a part of us that feels like, just get me out of here because it's way too risky. So the check-in here about does this one land for you is checking in about how sensitive do you feel these days? And how possible is it that you are saying that you outgrew your partner to protect yourself from a fear that they're going to mock you or minimize you? Because that would be very understandable and potentially workable. Like a little preview for what we're going to talk about later on in terms of strategies is, what if you brought that to your partner? What if you talked about that with your partner? Not that they need to be perfect and, more proud of you than you are of you, but if you invite your partner to be gentle with you and then they are gentle with you, things may feel different. Hypothesis 3 is mistrust of self. Oh, this is a big one. I'm really, I'm really cutting us. No corners here in this episode. Okay, so here's something I know to be true when people are particularly on a healing journey. So this one may pertain less to the situation that you're in if you're in more of like a kind of fitness journey or, interest or passion or purpose journey. This one's pretty specific to the healing self-discovery journey, which is that one of the side effects of starting therapy or starting a journey of self-discovery that we don't talk nearly enough about is that as you start to map the patterns and the roles and the wounds and the coping strategies, as you start to map that all out for yourself, you hit this point where you're like, oh my God, is my entire personality nothing more than a web of roles and wounds and self-protective strategies? And that network of trauma-informed stuff is what led you to choose the job you chose, the friends you chose, the partner you chose, the city you chose, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it feels like this unraveling. And it feels like this kind of almost like dizzying, like absence of self-trust of like, wait a minute, who am I at all anyways? And I want to invite you to put your hand on your heart and your feet on the ground and know that it is not an either or. Either you were wounded and therefore everything is wrong, or you are healed and now everything is right. You don't have to make breaks that delineate then versus now. You get to softly and gently make modifications versus wholesale changes. And just because a choice was informed in some way, shape, or form by a wound doesn't mean it was the wrong choice. Does not mean that. So I want to validate how hard it is to be a new you in an old place. And that desire, I'm going to use like a reveal my age. Do you even know what an Etch-a-Sketch is? Etch-a-Sketch was this cool toy we had back in the day where you would like turn these knobs and make this pattern and you could shake the Etch-a-Sketch and the entire thing would disappear and you could start again. And I think that can be a temptation when you're on a healing journey to like shake the Etch-a-Sketch and just have this clean slate, to have a new beginning, to have a fresh start. It's why we love a new school year and new school supplies. Do we love that? I love that. I'm just a nerd. Maybe other people don't love that. It's why we love January 1st. We love this idea of a fresh start, but we don't have to be extreme like that. And in fact, part of the healing journey is that you recognize that we don't need extremes. We no longer need extremes, that we can find comfort and sure-footedness in places of nuance. So the check-in here to see whether or not perhaps this mistrust of self is fueling your fear that you've outgrown your relationship is, are you experiencing kind of an urgency to flee or to renovate every freaking part of your life? Is there a part of you that feels like it's easier to leave than to figure out how to grow in the place where you've already planted yourself? And if that's the case, the response is, I just want to invite you to bring a lot of self-compassion. That feeling is incredibly understandable. And again, I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm inviting you to entertain the possibility that you don't have to undo choices in order to shore up and feel grounded in your growth. Okay, 4. I'm just calling this one ambivalence. So just to kind of circle up, number 1 was the constriction one. That was about, did your feeling of outgrowing the relationship start in response to a threat to the relationship? 2, I'm calling relational imposter syndrome, this idea that you're on your little Bambi legs and it's hard, feels hard and risky to ask your partner to support you and you aren't even sure about your own changes. 3 is that mistrust of self, that feeling of unraveling all of your life choices. And that's what's fueling the feeling of, I've outgrown this relationship. And our last one is ambivalence. This ambivalence one is about, maybe you aren't sure that you're going to be able to keep up this new way of being. So there's a part of you that wants to exit the relationship because if your partner actually does see these shifts, celebrate these shifts, cheer on these shifts, then you actually have to claim these shifts and embody these shifts. You know, it's like there's a door that says, I can't really change because if I change, my partner would feel threatened. And it's like that door closes. It's like there's a concern inside of you that your lack of self-trust can't be put at your partner's feet anymore. It's all on you. It's like, if I'm saying, I think I've outgrown the relationship, maybe what I'm saying is, I don't even know whether I want to ask my partner to see me. Because if my partner does see me and my partner does celebrate me, then that means I got to really walk this talk. And that means I got to really step into this change. And it's kind of easier to just say, it's impossible. It can't happen within this relationship. My partner would never celebrate and support this change I'm making. You might not yet feel worthy of your partner's cheering and support. You might not yet be sure that you are the kind of person who gets to take up that kind of space in your relationships, that gets to have that kind of support to grow and to change and to still be loved. So you may be just trying to get out of even figuring out how that would even look. So the check-in here to see whether or not that story might be fueling your fear that you've outgrown your relationship is there a part of you that's struggling to feel worthy of your own evolution and worthy of being loved through your evolution? Let's talk now about some relational hypotheses, right? So we did our 4 internal, inside of you hypotheses. Now let's talk about what might be going on inside of your relationship that is fueling this feeling that maybe you've outgrown your partner. So I planted the seed earlier in the episode. And one possibility I'm asking you to sit with is that perhaps you are turning a 2-person problem into a one-person problem. In other words, perhaps you are writing the entire story of this relationship because it feels too hard or risky or scary or vulnerable to even entertain the idea of co-authoring this new chapter of your love story with your partner. And there's a question, like a very real question about whether and how this relationship can accommodate or hold your growth. And so you might be coming up with an answer to that question as a monologue instead of a dialogue. You know, I've outgrown the relationship. That's the monologue versus the dialogue is how can this relationship become big enough and bold enough to hold my growth inside of it. And you might be doing this like, single authorship rather than co-authorship. You might be doing this for very good reasons. Not the least of which might be that your partner is conveying to you in no uncertain terms that they reject your growth, they hold your growth in contempt, that they are not interested in growing alongside of you, and they're not interested in celebrating your growth. And if that's the case, there's not really anything I can offer you in this episode. But there's other reasons, like other very good reasons why it may be hard for you to imagine co-authoring this new chapter with your partner, including that you may have a long ass history of being a lone wolf, of figuring shit out on your own, of working stuff out on your own, of not quote unquote burdening other people with your problems. And maybe you have that history because you had your heart crushed by people not showing up for you. And so now you don't even try. So the feeling inside of you is, my partner's holding me back. But the check-in here is, to what degree have I talked to them about what I'm wanting and needing as I grow or shift or evolve? And it may very well be the case that your partner has some feelings about the changes that you are making in your life. That's the nature of interdependence, isn't it? A change inside of you has an impact on the relational system. If your partner has some feelings about the changes that you're making, that does not mean that you have to stop changing, right? You don't have to push the lid down on yourself just because your partner's feeling some kind of a way about it. And you don't have to make yourself a victim of their struggle. That's not your job. But I guess I want to just plant the seed of what might it be like for you to be patient with your partner as they figure out who they are vis-a-vis this 2.0 version of you. What might it be like to be empathic to the impact that your changes have on them? Not empathic meaning, oh my God, I'm sorry I did something wrong. And not, oh my God, I did this to you, but just empathic about what it may be like for them to be with this evolving version of you. What might it be like to just be curious about the impact that your changes have on your partner? Be clear, it is not your job to fix their feelings. But what might shift inside of you if you had a deeper understanding of what's happening inside of your partner? Consider the possibility, and maybe you've already done it, of just asking your partner, what's it like for you that I'm growing in this way? Okay, just like we did with the internal stuff where I gave you those 4 hypotheses, I'm now going to propose 3 hypotheses about what might be going on inside of your partner in the face of your changes. See if any of these may resonate with you. Number 1, a fear of abandonment. Your partner might be making up a story that as you leave behind your old habits, your old ways of being, you're also going to leave your partner behind. They might be afraid of being abandoned by you. And they might look and feel shut down from where you stand, but maybe on the inside, they're scared and they're scrambling like a duck on a pond. They look like they're just kind of cruising along, but underneath the surface, there's the scramble. They're little what are they? Fins? Duck feet are going so fast, but you can't see it. There might be more going on inside your partner than meets the eye. Or they might be kind of hopeless and collapsed and therefore, looking to you like they're checked out and like they don't care. So what I'm positing here is maybe there are ways that your partner is quitting before they get fired. They're afraid of you leaving them. So they're trying to figure out how the heck to care less about you. And there might be a family of origin layer for your partner. What's your partner's history of being left, of being abandoned? And their capacity to be curious about you, attuned to you, proud of you, connected to you as you grow might be blocked by their history. And be clear, this is not an excuse. And unfortunately, you can't wave a magic wand and make this go away if it is happening. But I wonder if there might be a possibility of something going differently between you guys if the two of you can get curious about if a fear of abandonment is blocking your partner and shutting them down. So it's an invitation also for you to not personalize something that may very well have deep roots in the past. Okay, hypothesis 2 is feeling like a disappointment. So I'm imagining, you are full of energy and light and purpose and pride, and your partner remembers when they lit you up in the ways that you are now lighting yourself up. You might, race in from the gym and your partner's on the couch looking at their phone. And even if your partner is 100% comfortable with their choice to be laying there on the couch, they might catch a flash of judgment in your eyes. You might even say something like, oh, you look comfy, with just, a little hint of sarcasm in your voice. And that might be creating this dynamic where they feel disappointed. Again, I'm not blaming you. This is not a you thing or your partner thing. I'm just inviting us to look at the really sneaky, subtle dynamics that may be going on. Or truly, you may have no judgment of your partner laying there on the couch as you rush in from a workout, but your partner might be making up a story that you are disappointed in them. And that sucks. Like that would suck if your partner is losing sight of you because they are getting lost in a story of you. That's not fair, right? That's not fair to you. And then the third hypothesis is the hypothesis about jealousy. So it really may be the case that you are in your evolution kind of inadvertently holding up a mirror to your partner, and your self-care may be highlighting the absence of their self-care. And again, this one's not your fault either. You turning down your glow so that your partner doesn't feel ashamed of themselves is an entire recipe for you to end up resentful. So definitely don't do that, but just be aware. Stay steady, stay in your lane. Don't try and change them to be like you, but just know that your changes may slowly and gently over time invite your partner to change in ways that leave them feeling proud of their growth versus, changing themselves in a desperate attempt to get you not to leave. Also, okay, a little kind of funky side note in this jealousy category. It may be the case that your 2.0 version of yourself is made possible, at least in part, by your partner, right? Maybe they care for the baby while you're at the gym. Maybe they earn steady money while you pursue your side hustle. Maybe their steady income is part of what pays for the therapy that you're doing. That's awesome. That's interdependence at its finest. That's what we ought to be doing for our partners, right? That kind of give and take and ebb and flow and back and forth is a hallmark of a relationship that is thriving, is that everyone is, there's giving and there's generosity and people are making each other's dreams and goals possible. But just check in with yourself. If you are struggling with some guilt about the ways in which your partner's efforts make your changes possible, that might be blocking you from expressing your gratitude. And if you're not expressing your gratitude, your partner might be feeling invisible or jealous or bitter, and then they're shutting down. Now their relationship feels flat. Now you're really in the story of outgrowing the relationship. Let's talk now about where you go from here. I'm going to offer you 4 different exercises, conversations, practices that may support you in this season of your relationship. The first one I'm calling the snake skin exercise. This is just a chance for you to visualize what it might be like to shed the snake skin within this current relationship. So on a walk or whatever, sitting quietly on the floor, I want you just to, in your own mind, create a vision, a scene of your relationship in which your changes, your evolution feels deeply welcome and celebrated, and that this relationship looks exactly the way that you are wanting and needing it to look in light of your evolution. So paint this picture for yourself. What are you saying to your partner? What is your partner saying to you? What are you doing? What is your partner doing? Like really embody it, really embody the energy of this relationship, looking and feeling the way that you want it to feel in light of your growth, in honor of your growth. As you imagine that vision, the next step would be for you to get clear on what is the bridge between here and there. What would it take to make this vision a reality? What do you need to do to invite this vision? And what might you be able to ask for from your partner to help this vision become real? Number 2, introduce your partner to your evolving self. Get specific. Like, what do you need and want your partner to see and understand about you? What do you want them to remember about you? What could your partner say or do that would convey that they see, accept, celebrate this version of you? Number 3 is a gratitude practice. I guess I wonder how this relationship might change if and as you committed yourself to a gratitude practice. And I'm going to invite you to sit with this question. When I think about my evolution, what are the places that I can offer gratitude to my partner? In what ways has my partner been a catalyst for my growth? In what ways has my partner been an ally in my growth? And maybe there's nothing, like maybe truly you're going to come up with nothing, but just see if your feeling I've outgrown this relationship is kind of fueled by a feeling of bitterness. What happens to that bitterness if and as you explore gratitude? Like what parts of the story might you be leaving out? And then the fourth one, I have some conversation questions for you. These are questions that you and your partner can talk about together. The questions are, what are the ways that you notice me changing? What do these changes evoke in you? What can I do to support you as I make these changes? What do you wish I better understood about your experiences these days? How can you and I protect all of what's good about our relationship from the impact of my evolution? It feels to me like I'm growing and you're not growing, but that might be because I'm missing your growth. Is there something you want me to know about how you are growing in this season of your life? If you do not feel like you are growing, or if you don't feel like you need to grow, how can you and I stay connected as I grow and you don't? All right, we did it. And again, you are in the driver's seat here. You know more about your relationship than I ever possibly could. I hope that I have given you some points of self-reflection and some invitations to stretch relationally. Whether you explore how to grow within your existing container or whether you opt to repot yourself entirely, I am wishing you steadiness and pride in your evolution. Until next time, be well. Thank you for listening to our show. Our producers are Mary Chan and Katie Pagich of Organized Sound Productions. Our theme music was composed by Slade Warnkin. The show is executive produced by me, Dr. Alexandra Solomon. Do you have a relationship question that you want answered on the show? Visit reimagininglove.com to send in a written or audio question. Questions can be about intimate partnerships, family relationships, friendships, you name it. If you're looking for more love and relationship content, you can find me on Instagram at dr.alexandra.solomon or visit my website, dralexandrasolomon.com, where you'll find my blog as well as the Intimate Relationships 101 e-course based off of the popular class I teach at Northwestern University. Thank you for listening and see you next week here on Reimagining Love.